As the investigation continued and we're completing interviews, we find out that A.B. Shermer and Cindy Masante became engaged.
A.B. Shermer had proposed. He's wearing an engagement ring, and we're hearing they're going to get married, and we didn't want to put anyone else in harm's way, okay? So at that point, went ahead and filed the charges.
We went to his residence with an arrest warrant in hand.
Once the news came out about all of this and about that Pastor Shermer was being investigated, it rocked my perception of faith and about people in general. To hear that he had not murdered one person, but he had possibly murdered 2 people.
I factor in Joseph Masante's suicide as a direct result of the actions of the sinister minister.
So we had a murderer preaching to us every Sunday in church.
The trial for the homicide of Betty Shermer was held in Monroe County.
At formal arraignment, he entered a plea of not guilty.
A.B. Shermer thought he was smarter than everybody in the room, and he was going to try to convince a jury of 12 that he didn't do this.
It was very fascinating to see him working his magic, if you will, because none of us in the investigative team had ever seen him in the pulpit. It was really interesting to see him turn on the charm and smile and engage, and we're here in a murder trial, and the person that's dead is your wife.
You're looking at the jury's faces, you're trying to say, are they buying this? Are they believing it?
I don't believe the jury deliberated that long. I'm thinking between 2 and 3 hours.
And I remember the jury coming in and they stood and gave the verdict of guilty of criminal homicide. And I remember just this relief, just feeling a great sense of relief.
Mr. Shermer was found guilty of first-degree murder and tampering with evidence. Pastor Shermer entered a plea of nolo contendere, or no contest, to the charge of murder of the 3rd degree. That's a killing with malice, but without premeditation, and was sentenced to a period of 20 to 40 years, which is the maximum sentence.
When Pastor Shermer was convicted, it felt like justice was served.
Shermer was afraid of losing his image, his power, or reputation. And the more that somebody would push on those fears of his, or feeling of losing control, the more you would see his violent tendencies coming out. And that's probably something, too, that Betty and Jewel both experienced firsthand.